Hello. Study of modern India for mains from 18th century up to 1990, up to the 20th century, up to the end of 20th century. That means from uh, from 1707 to 1990. From 1707 to 1990. That means the 18th century, 19th century, and the 20th century. இது நம்ம 18th century, 19th century, 20th century. இது we can categorize into three parts. That means the three parts. The first part that consists of let me list out the topics. 18th century, 19th century, and 20th century. In which the important topics of the 18th century. Important topics of the 18th century is the nature of 18th century. First one is the nature of 18th century. That means that is the scholarship paradoxy. The scholarship paradoxy of 18th century. Scholarship paradoxy of the 18th century. Then the important event that include the events of milestones, the events of watershed. That means the third battle of Panipat. The third battle of Panipat. The third battle of Panipat. The third battle of Panipat, that means event of transitions that we have to focus on. Then the third event is the battle of Buxar, or the battle of Plassey. The battle of Plassey or the battle of Buxar. The battle of Plassey of 1757. As the three important events that we have to, the two important events on the nature of the 18th century that we have to concentrate. Okay. That is the paradoxy of the 18th century. The scholarship paradoxy of the 18th century. Scholarship paradoxy. There are the two views, the two types of the views. That means 18th century as the age of decadence. The age of decadence. The decadence the age of decadence, the age of decadence. The age of decadence as it was viewed by imperial historians, the imperial historians, and even some of the nationalist historians. The imperial historians like V.S. Smith, and others, who viewed that the 18th century was the age of darkness. The age of darkness. The age of darkness was due to the political collapse. The political collapse. The political collapse with the decline of the Mughal Empire, the decline of Mughal empires. Then it was the foreign invasions. That is the invasion. The invasion, especially of Nadir Shah. The invasion, the Persian invasion, especially of the Nadir Shah invasion, that led to the political collapse. And India became highly vulnerable. Lack of law and order. Political collapse and the lack of law and order. Then the second one is, it was stated as the age of the economic, say political collapse and the mainly it was the political collapse and the administrative decline. Political collapse and the administrative decline. That seems to be the two important event that marks the age of darkness as viewed by the imperial historians. But it is stated as the age of transition. The age of transition as it is viewed by the modern, the nationalist historians, the leftist, and the cultural nationalist, school, who stated that the 18th century was the age of transition. The age of transition, which represents the decline, that is the shift in power centers. The shift in power centers from the traditional centers of Delhi, Agra, from traditional centers of the Delhi and Agra towards the Pune, Mysore, then the Bengal, Pune, Mysore, Awadh. That is the shift in power centers. Shift in power centers marks the rise of the regional empires, provincial empires. Then it was the fall of Mughals and the emergence of new powers, non-Mughals. Politically, it is the shift in power centers. Then economically, India represents a greater economic transition due to the impact of commercial revolution on India. Due to the impact of the commercial revolution, it was the economic transition. The impact of commercial revolution resulted in the emergence of new economic and commercial centers as the coastal commercial centers as the Masulipattnam, Surat, Masulipattnam, even the Masulipattnam, Surat, even the Madras, even the Madras, Simsura and others, Madras, Pondicherry, and that is economic. Economically, it led to the advent of decentralized capitalism in India. Decentralized capitalism. Decentralized capitalism, which means decentralized capitalism as a mass production, a capitalist system of mass production, as a mass production system with the prefactory, a mass production with the prefactory, with the prefactory, with the prefactory systems, with the prefactory systems. It is called as a Jajmani system. It is called as the Datni system. Datni system. Datni system or putting out system. Or the putting out system. There emerged the various centers of the decentralized capitalism as Veeranna villages. Veeranna villages in the Coromandel coast, for example. Then it was the age of emergence of composite cultures. Composite cultures with the pluralism and the Hindu-Muslim values, Hindu-Muslim values based on bhakti and Sufi, bhakti and Sufi ideals, as Ajmer, Nahur, Pandaripur, Shridi, as the new centers of the composite cultures. So 18th century represents the age of transition, a transition in which decentralized capitalism, known for a new economy of bankers, new economy of bankers, book of credit operations, hundi operations, then known for international network of trade, that is transnational network of commerce, transnational network of commerce, then Bima, insurance system. There were the famous bankers like Jagat Seth, the famous banker Jagat Seth, then Sunkuvar Chetty, then the traders like Abdul Wahab, existed in India. So it is the age of transition in which India emerged as the center of pre-industrial revolution, pre-industrial economy, a center of pre-industrial economy with a power vacuum, A pre-industrial economic systems with a power vacuum was disrupted by colonial interventions. Disrupted by colonial intervention. India was known for a pre-industrial, a prelude to the Industrial Revolution. A prelude to the Industrial Revolution was a destination of grain. European gold came to India. It was the silver from the Latin America. That is the destination of grain. Silver from Latin America came to India through Europe. Then it is a destination of the grain. And Manchester of cotton, called as the mother of cotton, Manchester of cotton, occupied 23% of the global production, occupied 23% of the global exports. 23% of the global exports are known for the textile exports, calicos, silk, iron, the iron opticals, then indigo, saltpeter, known for the dominance in the global value chains that represents the nature of the 18th century in India. That is the scholarship paradox. 18th century India. Why administrative historians call it as the age of darkness? Administrative historians call it as the age of darkness because of two reasons. One is overemphasis on the political authority. Overemphasized on the political authority or the political centralization. Overemphasis on political authority or the political centralization. Then the second reason is to justification of the colonial conquest. Justification of the colonial conquest. This represents the scholarship paradox of the 18th century. Okay. Scholarship paradox of 18th century. Then second event to be concentrated in the 18th century was the decline of Mughal Empire. The decline of the Mughal Empire. The decline of the Mughal Empire since 1707 with the death of Aurangzeb. From 1707 to 1765, in which the decline of the Mughal Empire occurred. The decline of the Mughal Empire was seen. Decline of the Mughal Empire seen from 1707. What are the reasons for the decline? What are the reasons? The reasons for the decline. Reasons for decline. What's the reason? The reason for the decline of the Mughal Empire. The reason for the decline of Mughal Empire was due to the collapse of the Jagirdari system. Jagirdari, the entire empire was dependent on revenue base. Jagirdari, a land revenue system of the Mughals. A land revenue system. See, in Indian history, empires collapsed. The empire declined because of collapse of the revenue base, collapse of the land revenue base. Mughals declined because of decline of Jagirdari. Sultans declined due to decline of Iqtidari. Vijayanagar declined due to decline of Nayankara system. So, agrarian revenue basis declines. Then second reason, multiple reason. That is the second reason. That means the character of the state, the character of the Mughal state, the character of the Mughal state, the character of the Mughals, the character of the Mughal state was of absolutely medieval in character. The medieval character of the Mughal state. The medieval character in the age of rising modernism. In the age of rising modernism, Mughals known for the medieval character of the state. Mughals known for the decline, neglect of science, neglect of science and tech. Neglect of science and tech. It is the neglect of printing press. Neglect of the printing press. It is the neglect, not aware of mechanics, not aware of the mechanics, the modern mechanics. Mughals doesn't know screws, doesn't know the springs. No spring, no screw means no fabrication technique. For example, Mughal artillery has to be pulled by one artillery gun of the Mughals to be pulled by 200 persons, not less than 100% to climb a mountain. But the Dutch and the Portuguese, because of fabrication, come and waiting on the Mount Hilltop with a fabricated screw and technique. There is neglect of optics. Optics illena neglect of optics means no telescope. No telescope means you doesn't know who is coming in the sea, who is coming 5 kilometers away. How Nadir Shah cavalry coming blind. Neglect of optics, neglect of printing press. Lack of printing press means printing press இல்லைன்னா ஒரு நாட்டில் இருந்தா no mass literacy. Printing press இருந்தால்தான் literacy வந்தது. No mass literacy. So Mughal age, the character of the state. Mughal state performed as a police state. Mughal state, existence of the Mughal state depends on expansion and invasion. Expansion and the invasion. போய் பிடிக்கணும், கொள்ள அடிக்கணும், அதுல ஜாகிர்ஸ் கலெக்ட் பண்ணோம், அதுல மன்சப்தார்ஸ்க்கு சம்பளம் தரணும். புரியுதா? ஒரு இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் எக்கானமி, ஒரு ஃபினான்ஷியல் எக்கானமி பற்றிய அவங்க யோசிக்கணும். ஓகே, ஸ்டேட், ஒன் ஆஃப் தி one of the major loophole in the age of rising oceanic empires, Portuguese Empire, English Empire, they are all oceanic empires. Mughals prevailed as the continental powers. One of the apparent example is no navy, no importance of navy. No importance of navy. No importance of navy. In the age of naval armadas, in the age of the rising significance of navy, English won because of her naval prowess. Mughals had only one ship. Emperor Aurangzeb was the richest emperor in the world, Aurangzeb. Mughals had only one ship called as Zind-i-Sawai. Zind-i-Sawai. One ship of the Aurangzeb was captured by English for at least three times. Three times. Released only after compensation. Even the Mughal royal family to go Hajj, they have to depend on Portuguese ships from Goa. Portuguese ships from the Goa. So in the age of importance of navy, only two powers of medieval India given importance to navy. One is Cholas in the start of medieval India. Second one is Shivaji, Marathas, who laid foundations for the modern navy. Then inland navy by Assami rulers. Assami, Purbukans, commanders, Assam, Ahom rulers. Okay. Other than that, Mughals not given importance to the navy. Some of the naval flotilla organized by Bahadur Shah of Gujarat, but cannot match Portuguese. So no navy. Then the decline of the Mughal Empire was due to these reasons, these major reasons: collapse of the Jagirdari system and the medieval character of the state, and no importance to the navy. Ultimately, it was given death blow by Nadir Shah. Nadir Shah invasion destroyed the withering tree. Nadir Shah invasion, especially the Battle of Karnal in 1739, the Battle of Karnal, in which it led to final collapse of the Mughals. That is the decline. What is the consequent impact of the Mughal decline? What is the impact of the Mughal decline? Decline of the Mughals led to the decline of Mughals led to the rise of Marathas as the kingmakers. Marathas as the kingmakers of India, as the powers out to reckon. Then the second one is decline of Mughals led to rise of autonomous states. Autonomous states in Bengal, Bihar, Hyderabad. Autonomous states with the questionable legitimacy. That the legitimacy, they came from the debris of the Mughal Empire. So autonomous states always confronted with the civil war of succession, civil wars. So always a political problems. always the political problems. The decline of Mughals led to decline of inland power centers, inland centers, and the rise of coastal centers, rise of the coastal centers, the coastal centers of India, rise of the coastal centers of India. So this marks the decline of the Mughal Empire. Okay. Then the next event of importance. The next event of importance to be focused on, the third battle of Panipat. The third battle of Panipat. The third battle of Panipat of 1761. You know who are the actors of the third battle of Panipat? Third battle of Panipat was fought between Afghans, Ahmad Shah, Afghans, and Marathas. Afghans and the Marathas. Third battle of Panipat resulted in the defeat of Marathas. Defeat of the Marathas. Defeat of the Marathas. What are the reasons for the defeat of the Marathas? Reasons for the defeat of the Marathas was, major reason was change in the character of the state. Change in the character of the state. Change in the character of the state. From the character of popular despotism established by Shivaji, popular despotism, the character of popular despotism of Swaraj established by Shivaji, popular despotism into Brahmanical confederacy, confederacy of Brahmanical authority, that is Peshwas, confederacy of Brahmanical authority, that was the Peshwas, led to change in the character of army. Shivaji's army was light cavalry with a swift movement, but Peshwa's army was like a market, was like a large, even with the market, large with the market. That is the change in the character of the state. Then the change in the character of the state, that is the reason, rise of Brahmanical institutions. That was the major reason. Then what is the impact? The impact of the Marathas' defeat of the third battle of Panipat. Impact of the third battle of Panipat. What's the impact? The impact of the third battle of Panipat. It was impact of the third battle of Panipat resulted in decline of Maratha supremacy. Decline of the Maratha supremacy in India, especially. The decline, it led to the Marathas' idea of Hindu Padshahi as utopian. As utopian. Decline of the Marathas' decline and the Marathas' defeat in the third battle of Panipat resulted in decline of Mughals. Decline of the Mughals. It led to power vacuum, which enabled the British conquest of India. It enabled the British conquest. One of the major resistance was weakened, which enabled the British conquest of India. which enabled the British conquest of India. Third Battle of Panipat really marks the end of India's medieval history, end of the India's medievalism, end of the India's medievalism. That was the aspect of the Third Battle of Panipat. Okay. Aspect of the Third Battle of Panipat. Okay. Then next of the event was of British conquest of India. British conquest of the India. The British conquest of India. The British conquest of India occurred in the British conquest of Bengal. British conquest of Mysore and the British conquest of Carnatic. First one is the Carnatic. Then Karna could be studied as the Carnatic Wars. Then the British conquest of Bengal. British conquest of Bengal. Then British conquest of Mysore. Then that is the Anglo-Mysore Wars. Anglo-Mysore Wars. Then the British conquest, Anglo-Mysore War, Anglo-Maratha Wars. Then Anglo-Sikh Wars. Then British conquest of the Carnatic Wars. Carnatic Wars was the earliest war. Okay. Carnatic Wars, there occurred 3 wars. There were the 3 wars. From 1747 to 1761, there occurred 3 wars. First Carnatic War, Second Carnatic War, and the Third Carnatic Wars. The major reason for the Carnatic Wars. What is the reason for the Carnatic Wars? 2 reasons. One is European wars. That is the British English, Franco-English wars. Franco-English war between France. Franco-English wars in Europe. Franco-English wars in Europe. Franco-English wars in Europe. 2 reasons. Then second reason is the war of domestic war of succession. The war of succession in India. War of succession in Hyderabad and in Arcot. War of succession in Hyderabad and in Arcot. First Carnatic War, Third Carnatic War are European reasons. And the Second Carnatic War triggered purely off of war of succession. War of the succession. Okay. First Carnatic War and the Second Carnatic War. We know the important personalities associated here. The important personalities associated was Robert Clive. Clive, and its important significance was of, he was called as hero of Arcot. That means capture of Arcot. Capture of Arcot in the second Carnatic War reversed the tables. Reversed the tables. The important event was of the 1764 Treaty of Paris. Treaty of Paris is much important because Treaty of Paris ended. Treaty of Paris was signed between England and France as a result of 7 years war in Europe. Treaty of Paris is the triggering point for the American War of Independence. Treaty of Paris ended the Third Carnatic War in India. Treaty of Paris ended the Third Carnatic War in India. The impact of British war, conquest of Carnatic, the British conquest of Carnatic, the impact of the British conquest of Carnatic, the first impact was the British conquest of Carnatic, made British as the mistress of Coromandel Coast, mistress of the Coromandel Coast, able to control the trade, able to control the trade with the spices and cotton in Southeast Asia. Spices and cotton with the Southeast Asia. And British conquest provided as a platform to capture Bengal. It was the men and materials reinforcement from Carnatic that enabled to capture Bengal. That was the very important impact. The impact of. Then the second impact of the British conquest of Carnatic that marks the foundation for a colonial strategy of subsidiary alliance. Tunaipadai Thittam. Subsidiary alliance. That is functioning of subsidiary alliance. The first subsidiary alliance was signed with the Prince of Hyderabad. Prince of the Hyderabad. It was the subsidiary alliance. The Treaty of Subsidiary Alliance. That was the impact of Carnatic Wars. Impact of the Carnatic Wars. Then the next one is British conquest of Bengal. British conquest of Bengal. British conquest of Bengal is associated with the two battles. One is Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey of 1757 and Battle of Buxar. Battle of Buxar. Battle of Buxar of 1763. Battle of Buxar of 1763. Battle of Plassey was not a battle. It is not a nature of Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey was not at all a battle. It is a battle of conspiracy. A battle of conspiracy. A conspiracy between Company, Mir Jafar, and the bankers of Calcutta, Jagat Seth, Manik Chand. It is a conspiracy. And the result of the Battle of Plassey, in which British became Zamindar, British became the Zamindar, a trade-oriented company, East India Company, becoming a state authority for the first time, becoming Zamindar. It resulted in the rule of Mir Jafar, the rule of the Mir Jafar, rule of Mir Jafar. Rule of Mir Jafar, where the problem continued What are the reasons for the British war in Bengal? Reasons for the British war in Bengal. The major reason for the British, two reasons for the British conquest of Bengal. One is the misuse of dust tax. The misuse of dust tax. Dust tax means free licenses for trade, free licenses for import that led to cost of revenues of Bengal. Revenues of the Bengal. Then companies' behavior in the form of fortification, in the form of a separate entity, where the fortification of Calcutta, but the two reasons, this reason continued. This continued during the period of Mir Jafar, where the same problem continued with the misuse of dust tax and the arrears. Now it was dust tax and arrears. Arrears that led to Mir Qasim, transition to Mir Qasim. The transition to Mir Qasim. But the problem continued. Mir Qasim's engagement with France led to Battle of Buxar. Battle of Buxar was fought between Triple Alliance, in which the Mir Jafar formed a triple alliance with the Mughal ruler Shah Alam II and the Nawab of Awadh. The triple alliance on the English, in which the Battle of Buxar occurred, that led to defeat. The importance of the British conquest of Battle of Buxar was the importance of the Battle of Buxar was the Treaty of Allahabad. The Treaty of Allahabad of 1764, in which Diwani rights, the rights of revenue collections of Bengal was conceded to the British. So in the Battle of Buxar, British became political authority. British became the ruler. In the Battle of Plassey, British became Zamindar. Now company became the ruler of Bengal. The ruler of Bengal resulted in Diwani rights conceded to the company. Diwani rights and the Nizami rights conceded to the company. Diwani rights and the Nizami rights. Diwani rights, that is the right to collect revenues. Diwani rights. Nizami rights, right to execute criminal jurisprudence. Both are the authority of the state. What is this? This laid legitimacy on the foundation for British rule and British paramountcy in India. This laid because Treaty of Allahabad was signed with the Mughal ruler. So Mughal paramountcy was transferred to the British. Mughal ruler Shah Alam. It laid the foundation for the British paramountcy in India. Justification. Then what's the impact of the British conquest of Bengal? The impact of the British conquest of Bengal. British conquest of Bengal laid a foundation for the British paramountcy. It was followed immediately with a system of government called as dual government. Real authority is the British as a de facto rulers. where the revenues collected by Indians, the criminal justice executed by, enforced by the Indians, but on behalf of the British. Dual owner. Then a policy towards the other princely states as the ring fence policy. Ring fence policy. Ring fence policy was in the form of establishing a friendly buffers across the conquered territory. The friendly buffers across the conquered territory. One is to consolidate the conquest. That is the ring fence. Then it was the start of agro drain. The start of drain through land revenue settlement. A land revenue called as quinquennial settlement. A land revenue farming settlements. Revenue farming settlements, which resulted in the start of famines in Bengal. Famine in Bengal. Amrita Bazar Patrika in 1945 stated that British rule started with famine in Bengal and ended with famine in Bengal. In 1945, Bengal famine. In 1942, the Bengal famine. And in 1770, Bengal famine. British rule started with famine, continued with famines, and ended with famine in India, and especially in Bengal. So this seems to be the British conquest of Bengal. Then the conquest of Mysore. The conquest of the Mysore in the form of 4 wars of the Anglo-Mysore War from 1767 to 1799. The 4 wars. What is the reason for the British conquest? The conquest of Mysore. The British conquest of Mysore was of 2 reasons. That means 2 reasons. It is inevitable of a tripatriate polity in Mysore. Tripatriate struggle for supremacy. A tripatriate struggle for supremacy in Mysore between the Tipu and Hyder Ali and the Tipu, then Nizam of Hyderabad, and Nizam supported by the British and Marathas. So tripatriate struggle for supremacy is an opportunity for external intervention. Then the second reason that the British conquered Mysore, second reason was the Napoleonic menace, Napoleonic ambition of conquering the British colonies of India and Egypt. That is the Napoleonic concerns in which the 4 wars occurred. But the important personality, one is the Tipu Sultan, a personality of a greater paradoxy in India. Tipu Sultan is a personality of the historical paradoxy, one of being a reformer and resistance to the British. Reformer. Tipu Sultan promoted The ideals of the French Revolution in India. The ideals, the French ideals, the ideals of the French Revolution planted a tree of liberty, declared himself as a member of Jacobean Club and citizen, and the citizen. Tipu Sultan introduced technological and administrative reforms, introduced a French departmental system in administration, then introduced modern technology, French clock, modern technology, the French clock, then grenades, military engineering, grenades. That is the reformers. That is the aspect of reformer. But a paradox of the act of religious bigotism of the Tipu Sultan in the form of Zihadi pronouncement, where action against the British, action against the non-Muslims of the Western coast, which include Syrian Catholics and the Hindus. Zigadi, that is a Zigadi pronouncement. Not only the Zigadi pronouncement, but also of a genocides of the Bengaluru Iyengars, genocides of Bengaluru Iyengars on the day of Diwali, mass execution of an unarmed community, and also the persecution of Catholics, Catholic persecution that seems to be the acts of religious bigotism. Then destruction of the temples, religious worship, the destruction of the religious worships. That marks a paradox, but died heroically in 1799 at the end of the Fourth Mysore War. That marks the role of the Tipu Sultan. What's the impact? The impact of British conquest of Mysore. Made the British to conquer. It enabled the British to conquer the Deccan from Marathas. It conquered the Deccan from the Marathas because a resistance was broken. Then next one is the British conquest, Anglo-Maratha Wars, in which three wars occurred. First Anglo-Maratha War occurred in 1772 because British underestimated the Marathas. Second Anglo-Maratha War occurred after a long period in 1803, and the third 1817. So the reasons for the British conquest, of the Marathwada territories, because conditions are there. It was The civil war among the Maratha Sardars. Civil war among the Maratha Sardars. Civil war and the lack of statesmanship, the lack of Maratha statesmanship, the end of a particular statesman of Maratha led to the war. Second Anglo-Maratha War was due to the death of the Madhavrao. Third Anglo-Maratha War, first Anglo-Maratha War due to death of Madhavrao. Second Anglo-Maratha War due to the death of Nana Fadnas. So it was the civil war and the lack of statesmanship of the Marathas, civil war of succession. Then the second reason is the advent of textile, the industrial revolution. That means the British cotton ambitions, of the Deccan. In the study of the Anglo-Maratha Wars, two important events that we should not forget. The two important events, that was the Treaty of Bazaine. The Treaty of Bazaine in 1803. Treaty of Bazaine was signed between Peshwa Bajirao and the Bombay Presidency. Treaty of Bazaine is the cause for Second Anglo-Maratha War. Treaty of Bazaine caused for the Second Anglo-Maratha War. Treaty of Bazaine marks the end of Maratha Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi. Maratha rights of Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi in Deccan. That means loss of the revenue rights. Treaty of Bazaine is a type of subsidiary alliance in which the Peshwa of Pune became a subsidiary protectorate, the protectorate of the British rule. British infantry will safeguard the Peshwa of Pune in the cost of revenues of Pune. And the Treaty of Bazaine established British as the real rulers. British as the mediators in case of war between Maratha lords. British has to give permission for the Marathas to engage with other powers. So British became de facto rulers of the Marathas. British became the de facto rulers of the Marathas. That marks the Second Anglo-Maratha War, in which Marathas were defeated. The Marathas defeated made Marathas to become jobless, powerless, armless. When Marathas were the masters to the many war communities, which include Pindaris, Pindaris were a community of the war tradition, served under the Maratha masters. When their masters became jobless, armless, powerless, Pindaris started looting. That made Lord Hastings, to launch an action against the Pindari, led to Pindari's war. When their loyal soldiers were in the war, made the masters to jump into the war. That led to Third Anglo-Maratha War. Maratha War, in which Marathas were finally defeated. The importance, say, that is the important reasons: Treaty of Basin, Pindaris War. Importance, what is the impact and significance? Impact and significance of the British conquest of Marathwada territory. Significance of the British conquest of Marathwada territory. It solemnized the British paramountcy in India. The last resistance to the British defeated. Solemnized the British paramountcy. Solemnized the British paramountcy in India. Solemnized the British paramountcy in India. The last resistance, the real resistance to the British was defeated. Then second of the impact, now British became the masters of India. The masters of India. Then the second very important one is the defeat. The Marathas' defeat resulted in British to take control of the cotton producing region of Deccan. That is the start of cotton drain. The cotton drain out of India. The start of the cotton drain out of India. And it is the start of Deccan famines. Deccan famines are known for greater devastation. Deccan famines are known for the greater devastation. Greater devastation in India. That was the aspects of Anglo-Maratha wars. Then Anglo-Sikh wars. Anglo-Sikh wars. Anglo-Sikh war. Two wars occurred. Two wars occurred. Reason. What is the reason for the Anglo-Sikh wars? The reason for the Anglo-Sikh wars. The major reason was the war of successions. War of the succession. The war of succession. War of succession provided the condition. War of succession, especially after the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. The death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh in 1839 to 1847, you see, within 10 years, 7 successors were murdered. 7 successors were murdered. Then the second important reason was the British, that is the British foreign policy, northwestern frontier policy of British. That is British Afghan policy. British Afghan policy was the major reason. British Afghan policy was of fear of Russia, Russophobia, that is the fear of Russian advancement. So British Afghan policy want to make Afghanistan as a buffer. Afghanistan as a buffer between British India and Russia and the Russian conquered Central Asia. Afghanistan as a buffer between British India and the Russia. So for that, Punjab should be stable. Punjab should be stable center of supervision, stable center of operation, stable center of the operation. Then the third reason, the problem of Lahore administration. The problem of Lahore administration. Lahore administration to deal with the army It was the war of succession became a civil war between Sindhanwalia Sarkar, Sindhanwalia Sardars, Sindhanwalia Sardars, 6 Sardars, Sindhanwalia Sardars and the Dogras and Dogra Sardars. Sindhanwalia Sardars and the Dogra Sardars resulted in the establishment of Maharaja Dalip Singh, a minor ruler of the Punjab, which resulted in 2 wars. First war occurred because of war of succession enabled army to form panchayat. Armies formed the unions and triggered the civil war of succession by supporting one Sardar after another Sardar who promises high salary for them. So it is the unruly nature of the army made the Lahore administration, Rani Jindan and Tejas Singh, to declare war against the British that led to First Anglo-Sikh War. When the war declared, and movement of British forces informed to the British commanders, captains declaring the war and captains informing the enemy of the movement of their own army, that led to slaughter of Sikhs. So first war was due to Lahore administration. So in the Lahore, at the end of the First Anglo-Sikh War resulted in Treaty of Amritsar. Treaty of the Amritsar. The Treaty of Amritsar, which resulted in conceding all the forts in the east of River Ravi to the British. And there shall be a British resident in the Lahore. Treaty of Amritsar established Maharaja Dalip Singh as a protectorate and greater compensation for the war. The compensation was made out of land revenue. Decided by the British authority in Punjab. And an enhancement in the land revenue was opposed by the Sikh lords of Multan. That means Multan revolt under the leadership of Mool Raj against the revenue enhancement. Multan revolt was supported by the 6 Sardars of Ferozpur, 6 Sardars in other parts. 2 reasons for the Second Anglo-Sikh War. One was the Multan revolt. Second one is the British politics in Kashmir. That the 2 reasons led to the Second Anglo-Sikh War, in which the Battle of Gujarat, where the Sikh army was defeated. Then the impact and significance of the British conquest of Punjab. British conquest of Punjab actually reinforced reinforced the British powers, reinforced the British powers in India, reinforced the British powers in India, because British conquest of Punjab resulted in vast agrarian land, that is land revenue, that is in the form of British land revenue resources, British land revenue resources, and the Sikh army, human resources, human resources, human resources, land revenue resources, and the human resources. British became an unquestionable master, that is established. It consolidated the British colonial empire in India. It consolidated the British colonial empire, British colonial empire in India, that enabled the British to inaugurate, to expedite the forward policy, that means outright annexation of all the princely states. That marks the British conquest of India. That marks the British conquest of India from the 18th century to the 19th century. Okay? British conquest of India from the 18th century to the 19th century. What's the impact of the British conquest of India? What's the impact of the British conquest of India? British conquest of India. The British conquest of India, that is administrative impact of the British conquest of India. What are the administrative impact of the British conquest of India? Three major impact of British conquest of India. One is the impact on education, then impact on railways, impact on education, impact on railways, then impact of civil services in India. Okay. Impact of the civil services in India. Then British educational system, British education, impact of the education, the colonial education in India. The colonial education was in the form of the colonial education established the ruin and destruction of traditional educational system in India. The ruin and destruction of traditional educational system in India. Traditional educational system. The traditional education system was in the form of Pathshala, was in the form of Kalasala, Pathshala, elementary education, Kalasala, art education, Sarvakalasala, higher education, Mahaviharas, or the university education, Mahaviharas, university education. Then the specialized education, specialized school, Vidyapits, specialized institutions, Vidyapit, research and specialized institutions. Vidyapit. Examples, Mahapathshalas are the examples of village education. Then maktabs are the Islamic education. Pallis and patshalas, village education. Kalasala, art education, seems to be the educational system. The nature of traditional educational system in India, the characteristic features of the traditional education, that is of residential schools, gurukuls and maktabs, gurukuls and the maktabs, residential. Then it is based on the oral education that emphasized on value inculcations. Then it was regional, known for the regional diversity. The regional and the diversity in education, diversity in languages, diversity in the regional education, diversity. It is the value inculcations and the logic. Logic, in which it is known for the socially inherited technology, socially inherited technical knowledge, socially inherited technical knowledge, known for the regional diversity, value inculcations. This represents the education, the nature of education that was destroyed. That the British, that led to the education, the destruction, the colonial education system called as Macaulay, the Macaulay system of the colonial education. Macaulay system of colonial education was the outcome of Macaulay minutes. Outcome of the Macaulay minutes. Macaulay's system of colonial education was based on a downward filtration theory. Downward filtration theory. That means that the educating the elites, downward filtration theory, that is the educating the elite. Macaulay's system of education is the Anglicist system of education. Macaulay's system of education was of the Anglicist system of education, and it is of English. It was English in the cost of mother tongue. English in the cost of the mother tongue. It is the English education. It was of the non-technical education system, oriented towards the clerical system, clerical and Gumasta system of education. Critical analysis of the Macaulay system of education. Critical analysis of the Macaulay system. The impact of the Macaulay system of education. One is the ruin of traditional education. the ruin of the traditional education, the ruin and the loss of the traditional education and the mass education in India. Education became costlier. Education became costlier. Then Macaulay's system of education aligned with the westernization and Christianization, aligned with the westernization and proselytization, aligned with the westernization and the Christianization, the proselytization. Macaulay's system of education has only ambition. The aim is to establish the brown Englishman for India. The brown Englishman for India. Macaulay's system of education is to promote the white man's burden, that it is the burden of the white man to civilize the natives, the burden of white man to civilize the natives. This was the Macaulay's system of education. Then Macaulay's system of education that came into force in India since 1835, when William Bentinck as the Governor General, it came into force since 1835 in India, in which a milestone of the English education in India was milestone. It was the Charles Wood Dispatch. Charles Wood Dispatch of 1854 was the milestone of the Macaulay's system of education in India. Charles Wood Dispatch was known for establishing the three-tier system of education. Three-tier system of education. For the first time, Charles Wood Dispatch promoted mother tongue, education in mother tongue in the primary, in the elementary level. Mother tongue in the elementary level. For the first time, the woman's education. For the first time, the vocational education. For the first time, the vocational education. For the first time, university education in India. And the quality of education by establishing Department of Public Instructions as an examination system. The importance of Charles Wood Dispatch. Charles Wood Dispatch was called as the Magna Carta of English education in India. Magna Carta of the English education in India. Charles Wood Dispatch echoes even in the new education policy of 2025. Three-tier system of education, mother tongue, girls' education are all reflected in the Charles Wood Dispatch. Then the impact of the English education, the British English education in India. What's the impact of the British English education in India? The impact of the English education in India established India into a perpetual backwardness in the educational attainment ratio. Perpetual backwardness in the educational attainment in ratio, because when British left India in 1947, in 1947, the literacy rate of India is 16%. 16% literacy rate. How much? 16%. The people, Christian missionaries, often propagate that only British given education. If the because the intention is not to educate India. If the intention is to educate India from 1835 to 1947, 110, 12 years, at least 50% of the people should have educated. Should have they educated? So it is a myth that the British given the boon of education to India. That is a perpetual backwardness in educational attainment ratio. Mass illiteracy. Female literacy rate is 8%. Female literacy rate is 8%. Only 8%. Out of 100 women, only 8 can sign. 8 can read or write. Only 8 can read or write. Then where the education came? Where the education came? How people of India, that 16%, how the people of India educated? The 16% of the people of India was educated because of community organization. Community organization. Community organization. Community organization in the form of charity institutions, which includes the Christian missionaries. Community institutions, religious charity, Ramakrishna Mission, caste institutions, religious charity institution, philanthropic activities, philanthropic role. Pachayappa Mudaliyar established. A.L. Mudaliyar laid a foundation for critical research. A.L. Mudaliyar Institute of Basic Medical Science, Taramani. Critical research institutions. Charity organization. State done nothing. Nothing in the education. So it is the education. Then impact is a setback in technology. A setback in technology and human resources. A setback in technology and the human resources. That is the impact. That is the impact of the British educational system. Then railways in India. Railways was the result of railway minutes under Lord Dalhousie. Railway minutes under Lord Dalhousie, and came into course in 1950s as the earliest railway lines, Calcutta to Raniganj, Bombay to Tana, then Chennai to Madras to Valaja, Madras to Arakonam and Valaja. The earliest railway lines were all came. What are the reasons for the railway promotions in India? What is the reason? Reason is nothing but colonial consolidation. Then second one is railway bonds. Railway bonds is the British Portfolio Investments, BPI, British Portfolio Investments, British investors to India. The interest on railway bond, assured 5% interest, assured 5% interest, rarely given by the financial instruments at that time. Rarely given by the financial instruments at that time. Colonial consolidation, that means two objectives. Colonial consolidation, to facilitate a drain. Then the second objective, that means connecting drain, Lancaster to the Indian cotton farms. Second objective is strategic movement of armed forces, to ensure the swift movement of armed forces. Study of railways, known for the importance or role of Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon's reign, known for enormous expansion of railways. Lord Curzon's reign. 6,100 miles laid, railway track laid during the reign of Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon appointed Robertson Commission on the railways. Okay. Robertson Commission. Then assess what the railway done to people of India. What the railways done to the people of India. Assessing, that means demerits of the railways. One is drain. Interest on railway bonds was second only to the home charges. Interest on railway bonds occupies the second position after home charges. Second position after the home charges. Then anti-people subsidies. That means railways represents a paradox, a reverse paradox of subsidies. That means it was of low freight charges. Railways still, even today, railways are known for cross subsidies. What is cross subsidy? Cross subsidy, surplus revenue from the freight charges given to the public transport. In public transport, railway expenditure is loss, even today. But railway revenues are higher in freights. So surplus from the freight is given to the people transport. That is called as cross subsidy. But it is reversed cross subsidy. Railways in the colonial India known for low freight charges in the world. Low freight charges, but high passenger charges. That means anti-people cross subsidies. Then second, railways promoted famines in India. Railways promoted famines. How railways promoted famines? Railways promoted famines of connecting. Railways expedited famines. Railways expedited famines in India. Railways expedited famines because railway connected Lancashire with the village markets. Railways connected Lancashire with the village markets. Railways facilitated the dumping of cheap mission-made goods to village market, destroyed the village artisans, and railways expedited the export of raw materials out of India. So it led to deprivement and disruption of livelihood of the village